Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us today for the next webinar in our What's New series. For those of you who joined last month and missed me, don't worry, I'm back, but I know Jenny looked after you well while I was away. Now, in today's webinar, we'll cover some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that are coming up in the next few months. Don't feel like you need to make notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar and a follow-up fact sheet later today. Also, if you have any questions, then please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the side at any time. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those as we go along, but there's also going to be some dedicated time for questions at the end of the webinar as well. So, what's on the agenda for today? We'll start with the new OpenAI models landing in Copilot. Copilot Co-work is going live, so we'll take a look at what that means for you and your organization. We'll take a quick look at the tidier, easier to scan Copilot search summaries, as well as a new way to find your libraries in OneDrive. Then we'll finish up with looking at a new function of facilitator in Teams meetings. And lastly, what's coming next. As always, it's good to see so many people coming back and joining us again, and welcome, of course, to all of the new faces as well. For those of you that don't know us, we'll start with a quick introduction to Bedroq. My name is Craig Mundy, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Bedroq, and you might even recognize my voice from other videos on our YouTube channel or website. Bedroq is an IT managed service provider and a Microsoft solutions partner for security. And this means that most of the IT we implement is based on the Microsoft stack. So that's Microsoft 365, Teams, Azure, etc. And it also means that we meet all the technical competencies, quality of service standards, and customer criteria that Microsoft demand in the IT security world. Basically, we make technology work for the UK's most critical organizations. Now, the most important thing that we want to achieve is to make sure that your IT strategy is supporting your business as a whole. Now, many people we've come across have invested heavily into their IT, have bought all of the apps, and they've got lots of Microsoft licenses, but they're not necessarily using them to their full potential, and therefore not seeing the best return on investment either. So that's the aim of this webinar series, keep you up to date with everything that's coming out and everything that you can start to implement that you've probably already got, and hopefully make a big difference to your business strategy. Now, as a security specialist, Bedroq are well placed to be your cybersecurity partner. We're seeing increasing numbers of cybersecurity attacks, and the rate of these is only going to increase with the influence of AI, which can massively scale up criminals' ability to target companies just like yours. And recovery from something like this can be a lengthy and costly process, so it's increasingly important for any organization of any size to be prepared because, unfortunately, these sorts of attacks are becoming more common. Bedroq have a lot of experience of working with organizations with high security requirements. We have cybersecurity specialists who are constantly monitoring the ecosystem to improve our own services. We're Cyber Essentials accredited, and we're part of the National Cybersecurity Centre Industry 100, meaning we have a lot of first-hand knowledge and guidance to share. So if you're looking to assess or simply better understand your cybersecurity needs and requirements, then please get in touch and we can discuss best practice, consult on what your organization is doing to prepare, help you understand the why behind these sorts of attacks, as well as offer training to bring you and your team up to speed. Because more often than not, it's not just about the technology. So just drop myself an email or go through the contact page on our website, and we'll be happy to set up a meeting with our cybersecurity experts. Okay, now let's jump into some of the updates for today. Until now, every prompt run through Microsoft 365 Copilot has been answered exclusively by Microsoft's own models. Now, most admins in the room have never had to think about which AI vendor is actually sitting behind Copilot because there's only ever been one. And now Microsoft has onboarded OpenAI as a sub-processor for Microsoft 365 Copilot, which means OpenAI operated models, starting with the new GPT 5.6 family, now sit alongside Microsoft's own models inside Copilot. Microsoft says that the same enterprise-grade security, compliance, and data protection commitments all still apply, so that is a relief. Now, whether or not this feature is switched on for your organization depends on how your admins have configured it. But if nobody's touched the setting, then it should have defaulted to on at the end of July 2026. So just a couple of weeks ago, just a week ago, in fact. Now, it may just seem like a bit sub-processor change, but for regulated financial service firms, adding a new data processor is exactly the kind of thing that should go through your data protection and third-party risk process, not just land quietly in an admin center message. However, end users will also see a big difference in the responses that they get across the Microsoft stack. So Copilot will automatically pick GPT 5.6 when it judges the task suits it. Or users are also able to manually select it through a model picker where their tenant has one available. For example, what does this really mean? In Word, you should expect fewer rounds of back and forth iterative prompting to land on a usable draft. Whereas in Excel, you should find deeper analysis of your data while using tokens more efficiently. So answers are coming back faster as well. And say in PowerPoint, you'll get richer presentation drafts with better visual balance straight out of the gate. Now, if you're on a standard Copilot license and haven't reviewed these settings, then as I said earlier, please be aware that this change is almost certainly already live. So as much as it is important for your compliance documentation, everyone using Copilot should start to find noticeable improvements in your Copilot outputs as well. Of course, we'll have to test it out and see for ourselves, so I encourage you to go and play around and see if you can actually notice some of these improvements in real time. I've said a couple of times, this update has already rolled out, so as it was due at the end of July, so unless your admins actively opted out, it should be live in your tenant now. Up next, let's take a look at Copilot Cowork. Now, some of you may have already played around with Cowork while it was in a limited release, but this came without a clear sense of where it was actually going to live within the app, or more importantly, what it might actually cost you once it's switched on properly. So Copilot Cowork is now generally available worldwide, and you'll find it sitting in its own dedicated Cowork tab right next to Home, so it's no longer buried inside a general agent menu. And you can see that marked by the number 1 in the screenshot. Where Copilot Chat simply answers a question, Cowork, as the name suggests, does the work. You define a task, give it resources, and Cowork plans and executes it end to end. And this can be across Outlook, Teams, Word, Excel, SharePoint, basically everywhere and anywhere it's got access to. And it'll pull all the right information together, handing back a finished deliverable rather than just a draft. Now, if you've used other LLMs, large language models like Claude or ChatGPT, then you'll be used to this feature as they both have their own co-work functions within them, and you probably know about the potential power that this brings. So when you open it, you're greeted with a simple "What's first today?" prompt and a box that you can type into a task in your own words. And there's also a handful of ready-made suggestions to get you going, like organize my inbox, arrange my week, or prep for a specific meeting. So you don't necessarily need to have a fully formed idea before getting started. This general availability brings a model picker, which I kind of alluded to last time, including Anthropic's Claude family alongside ChatGPT's 5.5. Plus an auto option that picks the best model for the task. And it also includes browser automation via Edge, mobile task support, recurring schedules, and personal skills as well. You'll also spot dedicated search, scheduled, and customized entries in the sidebar on the left-hand side there. And this is the way that you can go and iterate and change or see what's recurring within the schedules and the personal skills, especially once you set them live and set them up. Additionally, Microsoft Purview controls extend to cowork as well. So this includes sensitivity label inheritance, audit logging, and e-discovery. If you find yourself constantly doing repetitive multi-step work that spans across several apps, say, for example, you're pulling data together for a weekly report, chasing information across emails and Teams and Excel, then this is a genuine step up from AI drafting something and then you finish it to AI actually running the whole job and handing it back to you. Those recurring schedules that I've touched on mean basically a task that, well, it'll be helpful for those tasks that you redo every week. And in principle, Cowork could run it itself. Of course, you'll need to prove the finished item and reiterate with Cowork, but taking the time to properly set up the skills and these automated tasks should help you stay on top of those repetitive tasks every time they come around. And this is actually built into the interface itself. So you can see marked by the number 2 here, there's a needs your input section on the home screen. So rather than hunting through a series of finished tasks to see what's still outstanding, Cowork highlights exactly which items are waiting on your review or for a decision from you. And even if you're not planning on running full pre-made scheduled activities, and even if it's just to the extent of quickly gathering relevant information from across Microsoft Stack into one location, then this might be really, really helpful and something to play around with as you go. Now, much like the paid versions of other large language models, accessing Cowork now requires usage-based billing through Copilot credits on top of your existing Copilot license. And it doesn't seem that there are currently any Cowork usage bundles on offer at the moment. So it seems like it's a new cost line, not something already covered. So make sure to have a little look out there and see some of the official stuff from Microsoft on cost estimations. And then maybe it's worth talking to your manager to get a business case to put together, as this is some genuinely powerful technology coming to the Microsoft stack. Again, this update is already rolled out, so make sure, as I say, research the costs and see if your organization is serious about investing in AI to support your work. Now, sticking with Copilot, here's another nice quality of life update. Currently, when you search inside the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, the summarized answer at the top of your results can be a bit long-winded, which makes it harder to scan quickly when you're mid-task and just need pointed in the right direction. When this update lands, Copilot Search will give you a shorter, more scannable, summarized answer at the top of your results. And in the screenshot example, you can see in the summary itself, it uses bold on some of the key terms as well. So in this one, it's branding strategy, and that's linked to the search in the top as well. So it should hopefully help you, again, scan through it quickly without having to read the whole thing. And there's also a clearer prompt inviting you to continue into Copilot chat. When you do click this little button, the full context carries across so that you can dig into detail or ask any follow-up questions without losing your place. If you use Copilot Search at all to find a document, a policy, or even something from a previous conversation, then being able to reduce your reading time for every summary should add up across a working week. It's also worth flagging that this isn't just searching your files. The results pane on the right actually gives you a breakdown of exactly where the answers have been pulled from. So it can be from basically anywhere that Copilot has access to: SharePoint, Outlook, ServiceNow, Dropbox, Google Drive, and all the rest of them that you can see in the list there as well. So if your content is scattered across several systems, then this is genuinely searching across all of them at once, and not just the ones that you would remember to check yourself. So on top of this, you can also filter by person, by file type, and when something was last modified, which is really helpful if you have a rough idea of who created it or when, in fact. And this clearer path to the full chat or follow-up questions also means less time spent working out how to dig deeper once the short answer perhaps isn't quite enough. And additionally, you won't need to provide that context over and all over again to get more information out of it, which I personally know can be quite frustrating when you're working with AI. Starting a new chat because it starts to lose the plot a little bit. And this one may seem like a somewhat of a modest update, perhaps one that some of you may not even notice, but despite it not being a new capability, the fact that Microsoft are rolling out updates like these means that they are looking to improve our user experience across the board. And these sorts of updates help our productivity by reducing those smaller frustrations and the small frictions throughout our working day. So if you've never used Copilot Chat to help you search for specific documents or a message in a chat, then definitely give it a shot once this update rolls out. Or if you've perhaps given up using it as it was giving you inaccurate or answers that just waffled on a bit too much, then go back, try it again, and see if there's a noticeable change in your experience. This update is due anytime now until late August, so be sure to keep an eye out for this one landing over the next few weeks. All right, next, let's move on to an update coming to OneDrive. Now, at the moment, finding your way back to a SharePoint document library through OneDrive can mean digging through the More Places experience, which is not really the fastest route back to a library that, say, you used just yesterday. Well, fortunately, Microsoft have just helped with this, or as I say, very much hopefully. There's a new libraries entry on the within OneDrive, and that left-hand navigation, marked by the number 1 here on the screen, sitting alongside things like Home, My Files, Shared, etc., giving library access its own dedicated place rather than burying it inside More Places. Once you're in, there's 3 tabs that let you browse even further. You've got, this is marked by the number 2, Recent, My Teams, and Favorite Sites. So you can jump straight into your library that you used recently, or one that is tied to a specific team that you're in, or one that you've deliberately favorited, all without having to scroll through that normally far too long list of libraries. There's also an additional filter by specifically by name, and that's in the top right-hand corner, marked by the number 3. So if you're looking for something specific, you can just type and instantly further narrow down that list. You can see in the screenshot how this actually looks in practice, as each library shows up as its own tile, named for the specific area within the site. Things like accounts payable, product catalog, dashboard assets, etc., rather than just one generic tile per SharePoint site. So if your work has you working across several sub-areas of the same client or project, then you can jump straight into the right one rather than landing on the site homepage and then clicking your way through to find what you're looking for. And say if you manage or reference several SharePoint libraries day to day through, with different clients, projects, departments, then this will help, again, cut down the number of clicks and detours needed to get back to the one that you're looking for. It'll also alleviate the need for your shortcut list just containing everything in your OneDrive, as I know personally, mine has started to become that. So it's not so much of a shortcut anymore, as if I have to scroll down, it's not necessarily doing the right job. So you can actually see that this is already starting to happen on the left-hand side. If you look a bit further down under Quick Access, you can see that there's a full list of individual libraries that are all pinned directly there as well. Again, rather than just having shortcuts pointing you back to more specific folders. It might be particularly useful if you're the person in IT or say in operations who currently gets asked to track down a file for a less, technical colleague, since it should also make it easier for them to find their own way there next time. Although I'm sure that's perhaps just wishful thinking from me. But just so you're aware, this is actually a full replacement of an existing named feature. It's not just a redesign bolted on top. So if this is an area of Microsoft that you frequent, then it's going to be worthwhile getting used to it being called libraries and where it is in the list, as it's not just a new coat of paint like a lot of their updates. Now, this one was due mid to late July, so this should already be available to most of you. Here's a little bonus update that actually wasn't on the agenda. there's a new capability in PowerPoint that could be very useful to those of you preparing for upcoming presentations. Now, most people rehearse their slides before a presentation, but far fewer properly prepare for the questions that might come afterwards. And quite often this can be the part that actually catches people out. So to access this, open the Copilot pane in PowerPoint, which is the Copilot icon in the ribbon, or there's the new sort of hovering image of it in the bottom right. And you'll land on the Let's Edit Your Presentation panel with an Allow Editing control and a free text box for your own prompts, but you don't need to necessarily type anything for this one. And underneath, you can see 3 ready-made prompt cards. Review this presentation, visualize this presentation, and the key one, prepare for questions, with the subtitle of Predict Audience Questions or Concerns. So click it, and it'll instantly just start running the analysis with no prompt writing required. And this is, so review this presentation and visualize this presentation have been given shortcuts in your ribbon, but for some reason the prepare for questions one hasn't yet. So you'll just still have to make your way to the Copilot sidebar to access it for the time being anyway. Now, for anyone building board-ready slides or client decks under time pressure, this will hopefully help close that gap between finishing your slides and actually feeling ready for the room. It takes just a couple of clicks, not a prompt that you need to know how to phrase, as I say, so there's genuinely no reason to skip it before a client meeting or board presentation. However, you can still also type in the prompt in those similar words if you don't have those pre-made options, and it'll still give you some recommendations as well. It can also cut down on asking a colleague to sanity check your deck purely because, as I say, you can review this presentation in the same spot, which saves your time and theirs. And it will hopefully help you overall feel more confident going into any big presentations coming up. This one should, again, already be rolled out, so make sure to run this on your next set of slides before the meeting, rather than wishing you had used it to prep afterwards. Now, lastly, let's see what's coming to Teams. I'm sure in some of your meetings, a question comes up that nobody in the room actually necessarily knows the answer to, or perhaps they don't even notice that it's been asked. Well, Facilitator is getting a new trick to help with exactly that. Once it's added to a meeting, Facilitator sits quietly in the background, and if a factual question goes unanswered, it'll actually now search the web and post a proper answer straight into the meeting chat. And you can see this happening in the screenshot. So someone in the meeting asked, what is an LLM? And rather than the conversation just moving on unanswered or derailing the conversation, Facilitator posted a clear, properly written explanation right there in the chat panel, clearly labeled that it's coming from Facilitator and tagged as AI generated, so nobody's left wondering whether a colleague has actually typed that out themselves. It's apparently genuinely restrained as well, so typically responding less than once per meeting, and only when the question is actually relevant to what's being discussed as well. As you can see underneath it, they've got the classic thumbs up, thumbs down sitting right underneath the answer as well. So if it's wrong, you can tell it, you can flag it right there and then, and rather than just leaving it set in the chat as an accepted fact. And this keeps meetings moving without breaking off to Google it or someone losing their train of thought to answer the question. And it also gets rid of that "let me get back to you" action that might otherwise land on someone's to-do list after the call ends as well. Now, it's a small saving in any standalone meeting, but I'm sure if you spend a lot of your workday in meetings, it's going to add up across a week of back-to-back calls. So it's worth knowing, though, that it's, as I said, not just going to switch it on itself. So someone with a Microsoft 365 Copilot Premium license needs to deliberately add Facilitator to the meeting first. So it's not just going to quietly turn up on your calls unless someone chooses to bring it in. And of course, it only works in standard Teams meetings, not random calls, webinars, town halls, etc. So don't expect to see this everywhere, just yet at least. One thing I'd also just I think it's important to raise to your compliance team on this one, at least before you get used to it as a habit. It is going to be searching the web mid-meeting. So if you're discussing anything sensitive, then it's worth being aware of before you go relying on it by default. Now this one, the dates have been a bit inconsistent from what I've read, as it was originally penciled in for around August time, but I think the latest information points to a late September to mid-October release. So this one's not landing too imminently quite yet. All right, that's us for today. I just wanted to quickly let you know about the next webinar in this series that will be coming next month. So it'll be taking place on Thursday, the 3rd of September, and you can register for that on our website, or let me just grab the link for you all as well. I'll pop that in the chat. There we go. And of course, as always, we look forward to seeing you all there. And if there's any topics or questions that you wish for me to cover in the next webinar, then please just get in touch. I'll be happy to have a look. If you just want to get the date in your diary, then please click on that link just now and sign up today. Remember that all of these webinars are recorded and accessible through YouTube and our website, so make sure that if you've missed some, to go back through them and have a look if you're interested in learning more. And of course, please share them with your colleagues as well. Now, let's just quickly take you through our stakeholder workshop that Bedroq run, and it's our strategic IT assessment. It's a stakeholder workshop designed to get your consensus on your business priorities. It can be conducted face-to-face or virtually, and it gets your leaders and investors aligned behind the best way to fully assess your IT strategy. There are no cost implications with this one other than a mutual investment of time. So if you're an IT leader at your organization and you need a bit of backup to prove to the CFO that you need to make an investment into your IT, or perhaps you're just looking at better ways to use your existing IT investments, well, we're happy to look at all of these things. So please just let us know if this is something that might interest you. Get in touch and we'll be happy to set this up and introduce you to the team that will walk you through this process. If any questions do come to mind, perhaps while you're looking through the fact sheet later today, then please feel free to reply to the email that I'll send out with the recording a bit later on. And as always, I'll be happy to help with any queries about the content in this webinar or anything else, and we'll be, always happy to look to cover your suggestions in the future. And just a quick reminder about cybersecurity. If it's on your mind and you want to talk to us and find out more about how we can support you and your organization to improve your cyber resilience, then please just get in touch, as I say. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye.